Okay, Mr. Chavez, before I swear in the witness, I just want to reiterate, please stay focused. Don't rehash the previous case. Please stay focused on your pending charges before us today, which is 8.11 and 11.2 and 14.2. Sir, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you state your name, your full name, and position for the record?
Emil Lopez, Finance Manager, Treasury Division.
Okay, Mr. Chavez?
Mr. Lopez, are you familiar with the procedure that BTR and customer service staff follow regarding payments before they can issue an interim BTR or CU?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Lopez, were you the finance manager, did you walk the business owner down to the zoning department? Did you walk the business owner of La Fama to the zoning department?
No, see, Mr. Chavez, that's why I stated, I think this is what the city attorney is getting ready to say.
Okay.
But that's why I stated before you started with this witness, we already have all of that established. And I promise you, and I believe, I'm not just saying this is my track record. I listen and read and hear everything, and so I promise you that I have a thorough understanding of your previous case, and we don't need to rehash it. So you got to focus on, because what's before us today is, 8.11 is regarding the reorganization. So your questions need to be directed at how you feel the city violated this reorganization section, which has to do with a department being reorganized, because that's what you brought forward, as well as 11.2, which is where it allows for, it speaks of the allowance of assignment to other work. That's how your questions need to be directed. If you don't have any questions of this witness relating to that, I would suggest you move on to the next witness, or on to, maybe you're resting your case or what have you, and then you can raise whatever in your closing statement, closing argument.
No, I do have other questions along
relating to those areas that I just cited.
I got a question. So some of the questions you're asking him are good. He's going to make me or convince me of the allegations, or he's going to remind me of the hearing where he walked the guy down, told him you can change your license here, etc., with the licensee.
I don't understand at all.
Yes,
he walked
I have
down.
a witness right here.
Correct.
That I've seen already, and I have a feeling that he's gonna explain the way that the licensee came in,
okay.
and he walked him downstairs, and he took him to the counter, and he said, "This is where you got a choice to make. You can either take the zeros out, or you can change."
Right.
We've heard all that, and you won your case. Are you gonna ask him questions related to what happened after you got back?
Yeah.
Okay, then please don't go through the whole. I know I can tell you real quickly. He walked the guy down. He had to explain we get all that. For the last 3.5 hours, I've heard everything. I could have sat up there and recited it for you. We concede to that.
Okay.
I just don't know why we're here yet, because you haven't said what happened afterwards yet.
Okay.
I know everything else that you've asked the last 5 witnesses. If you're going to do the same with him, please spare us, so that in the end, we don't go, we're out of time, good luck, have a good day.
Okay.
Okay, so please, Mr. Chavez, stay focused.
Mr. Lopez, was the BTR section, was it a commission action, or was there a survey taken for, as it calls out in the civil service rule, when you're going to reorganize the department?
Objection. Question is leading. Fails to establish that the department was reorganized.
Would you know anything about a reorganization and how that's done?
The way is phrasing the question about commission, survey. No?
Right. Would you know anything about reorganizing a department? Do you have any knowledge of how to reorganize a department?
I can't ascertain for the changes that have happened as to,
No, that's not what I'm asking you. Do you have any knowledge of how, under the city,
no, no.
that,
I
how to
understand.
reorganize the department?
No.
Okay.
I
Next
understand.
question.
Next question. Did you come before this board when my job duties were changing from my job description?
Again, it presumes a conclusion in the question. It's leading, is an objection.
This is the second time that I've been on this board. The first one was
Okay,
as,
no. It's just a question.
Wait, rephrase the question,
The
Mr.
question is in the civil, 11.2, it says, before you can change somebody's duty from what it's in the job description, you must go before the Civil Service Board. And
Do you have any knowledge of civil service rules as it relates to changing someone's job description?
no.
Okay, next question, Mr. Chavez.
Mr. Lopez, my assignment in finance management has been since I returned to work on February 29th.
To exclusively work on the BTR halls.
Does that assignment, I know it's less than my job description, I'm introducing this, does it match my job description?
And he's
Wait,
testifying.
what is this document? When you're,
This is my job description. It's one of
Okay.
the-
is that in the package that you,
Yes.
meant?
It's new, it's
I'm
for him.
sorry?
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you gotta, before you hand it to the witness, you gotta, make sure the city sees it and that we all have a copy.
Okay.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'll walk over and take a look at it so we can
Okay.
continue moving this if you
Okay,
want.
go ahead,
All right.
if you don't mind, thank you. No, he didn't, submit it, he just, okay, and then, I'm gonna let, can also, do any other members need to see it? I know member
We haven't been
Sutton.
able to give it to you yet. We're just trying to
I'd like to see it.
pull it apart so we can get it.
Okay,
I think you gotta give us a second.
because I know member Sutton wanted to see that job description. Thank you. And while we're finishing up, does the city have any objection to the job description?
There's no, on its face, there's no objection. I see what Mr. Lopez has to say about it. I mean, obviously, if Mr. Lopez's description and it's placed now, we have no objection.
Okay.
Mark it and highlight it, things, you know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is Mr. Lopez, right? Yes. What's his job? What's his title?
Finance manager.
Finance manager? You're with the whole finance department?
Finance manager.
second in command? Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Lopez, Member Dames has a question.
I'm sorry, how you doing?
Very good, thank you for asking. How about yourself?
We're very good. I remember you also. Some good people came through. Listen, your job title is what?
Finance manager.
Finance manager. Okay, and are you over Mr. Noel?
Actually, I'm his direct supervisor.
You his direct supervisor?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
okay. And how long you been that?
How long?
Yeah.
Close to 3 years.
So this other person that left, who was he? He was the director. So he ran the whole spot.
Correct.
Okay, okay. But you, while all this was going on, you was Mr. Noel's immediate director.
That is correct.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and while we're getting the other documents, we'll start with the text. Are you starting with the
What?
job description with him, the questioning?
Oh, that was the question, right?
Go ahead, go
Yes.
ahead, while we're getting the other documents. Go ahead.
Okay, does that assignment that I've been doing match my job description and pay?
I don't work in HR to actually answer the question about pay. I do know that it falls within the discretion of what the PTR department was doing, and the change and any actions that were taken were actually a directive from the former director, which is within his discretion to do.
Again, is that job description match the assignment?
Do you want me to read your job description? If you can find the wording that reads, removing the holes of the BTR?
No, even for simplicity, would you take a business tax receipt supervisor and have them do the same job that you had a clerical person doing?
That's not my call to make, Mr. Chavez.
Also, you're saying it wasn't your decision?
As a matter of fact, you know it was not. I have
No.
an email that you sent me in which specifically you say that you have high confidence that it was not my decision.
I'm saying, so it was not your decision. Regardless, are you in agreement with that? Is that correct?
This decision was made by the former director. It was consulted with the city attorney's office. It was not my place to either agree or disagree. It was within his discretion to do.
Okay, based on your professional opinion, is it good to have a business tax or good sound business practice to have a business tax receipt supervisor with 15 years of experience and the pay doing the same job that you had, that Mr. Major, who was here, testify? I'm asking, there you go.
Based on my professional opinion, I can tell you that if I would be the director of the department, which I'm not, the decisions would have been taken a different route or not. I have to be the director in order for me to answer that question. I cannot answer on someone else's behalf.
I'm asking you in your behalf, your professional opinion.
He
You're
just
a
gave,
manager.
Mr. Chavez, he answered the question. He gave his opinion. You asked in his professional opinion?
I did, he did.
Yeah, he did. He answered the question. He said if he was the director, which he's not, that it could have maybe whatever gone into a different direction, but he's not the director and he's not in that position. And so that was he answered the question. That's how he answered. It might not have been the answer you wanted.
I understand.
But he did answer the question.
Okay.
So next question.
Yes. Another exhibit, there are a couple of emails. One says in the front, September 29th, 2015, 11:25, Emil Lopez to myself. And the one staple in the back, October 20th, 2015, 3:25 p.m., myself to Mr. Blanco and Emil Lopez.
Okay.
That's my next exhibit. You have that with you there, Mr. Lopez?
I don't have any paperwork here.
Does the city have,
Give him my copy so we can keep moving. This is
Okay.
Tuesday, September 29th, 2015. Is that,
Yes.
all right, and I have 1, 2, 3, I have 5 pages. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Lopez, will these two exhibits of emails portray some of the job activity functions that I usually carried out prior to February 29, 2016?
It's, yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I participated in one of your trainings.
Okay. That was a question. Mr. Lopez, would you agree that up to the last week of 2016, I was carrying on my regular duties as BTR supervisor as in my job description? And I'd like to, up to February 2000, the last week of January 2016, was I carrying on my job as BTR supervisors as per my job description and according to those?
It's a compound question, objection.
Prior to, I mean, up to the last week of January, you were doing the tasks that were assigned to you.
Okay. Was it that task?
I'm not going to go, I don't have your job description here to actually match every activity that you used to do prior to that. I'm answering that you were doing what your tasks were assigned.
Okay,
If
now I'll
training
put it
was
the other
not-
way. Was I assigned already exclusively to the holds report? Exclusively to the whole report, just like I am now?
No.
Okay. Mr. Lopez, do you recollect reminding me prior to 2016 that the person who would be working on the hose assignment was brought on board just for that assignment?
When that was, you talking about when we got someone to help you with that assignment?
No, when somebody, do you recollect when you told me via email that the person, Mr. Major, was brought on board specifically for working on the hose report?
You have something in writing that I sent, yes. I just don't recollect exactly the way you were in it.
Okay. Ms. Lopez, was there any communication prior to the change of any intention reflected of any kind to my person, employee relations, the union, that I would cease doing the functions that I was doing up to that week?
If I have any communication?
No, was I given any communication prior to the change?
No, you actually, when you came back from...
Prior to that, was I notified at all?
No.
The last week?
Not by
No.
me.
Okay. So the priority on the hoses assignment changed after my discipline?
When you came back from suspension?
Mr. Lopez, you remember when I returned from suspension and called me into your office to instruct me what I would be working on, that I requested it in writing?
I remember that. Yes.
Did you put it in writing, Mr. Lopez?
Actually, I related the information to you verbally, and subsequent to that, you requested it in writing.
Right, because I put it 8 times and then I had to ask, put it in writing because I didn't get it. Was there any
Yes.
reason why you didn't want to put it in writing, or just?
Actually, I explained to you on the times that you requested in writing the reason why I have not provided you with what I related to you.
You gave me reasons, but you never gave it to me in writing?
As a matter of fact, you didn't wait. We were going through finalizing the CAFRA, the city financials during that time. There was a whole bunch of requests, last-minute requests from the auditors, and I did relate the reasons which take those into account. As a matter of fact, you have just came back from the suspension, and right after that, you took a paternity leave for a few weeks. So I also mentioned in my replies, either verbally in writing, as to the fact that that's what delayed my reply. And as much as you wanted it to get it in writing, that I was going to. However, you took the opportunity to one of those replies and actually said, before I forget, let me put in writing what we discussed.
So did you acknowledge that that was correct?
I actually replied back with my acknowledgement. If you can read that rather than going
You
back.
reply, you acknowledged that that was correct.
He's gotta
Reply
let-
back. You can read my comments, that's my acknowledgement.
Kevin, is your mic on?
Yes, he's got to, I think, putting me off. He's got to let the witness finish the answer because it's very difficult to follow if he keeps interrupting. Mr.
Yeah,
Lopez.
Mr.
my
Chavez.
apologies.
And what a nice supervisor, because anyway, go ahead, sir. Finish your answer. Because for you.
I did reply back because on his email, he specifically mentioned something to the fact, and this is just me trying to recollect what was, if I left something out or if there's something that I'm missing, something to that matter. I replied back to that email.
Right.
I believe it might have been one paragraph of 2-sentence long statement, what I related to you.
Right, okay. Move on, Mr. Chavez. Move on, please.
Mr. Lopez, after the hearing of August 30, 2016, did you become aware that all allegations, any repercussions or penalties, or whatever associated with the subject that brought about that hearing, the discipline, no longer had any validity against my person? It's like it never happened. Were you aware of that?
I actually did not quite understand your question.
Okay. After that hearing and the decision rendered by the board, are you of the mind that after that point, nothing that happened prior, why I was suspended and all that, had any validity?
No, I don't recollect that.
You what?
You asking me if I have any knowledge after that?
All right. No. What do you consider if after that hearing that I was absolved totally,
Okay.
what was your thinking? Would your thinking was that I was still guilty, that anything, or was it that anything that happened related to that was gone?
I did not know either way. I did not know if it was what the final resolution or suggestion was, what the final decision was from city manager. I did not know one way or the other.
Weren't
Neither
you at
did
the
I ask.
hearing?
No, you asked me after.
No, right after the hearing,
Did after
after the
Okay.
decision.
Okay, he answered the question, he said he don't know. Go ahead.
Okay.
Next question.
Mr. Lopez, well, I can't ask this. You recollect on the August 30th that, am I allowed to ask if he has security to the system? No?
Ask it, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I can't.
Mr. Lopez, at the hearing of August 30th, 2016, do you recollect, I was on the stand and a member of the board asked me, who did I believe had security to the system? I replied that I believe you did. You recollect that part?
I don't remember, but
You were not even on the stand. The board asked you, and you said you did not have security.
to my knowledge, at this point in time, I don't. I mean, it's like you ask me, have I ever accessed the system,
Okay.
edit rights or security
No,
rights? I have
security.
never done it, so no one has ever told me if I had any rights. So
No.
to me, to my knowledge, I
Oh,
don't.
okay. No, I understand. So nothing has changed since that time either. You don't know if you have security or not.
On myself, I never asked the question if I knew what the answer was. Like, if I don't have, to me, I don't have, why would I ask anyone else the questions if I have it? If, to me, I've never used it, I've never been told that I have it. Why would I ask the question if I had the rights?
So you've never been told.
Do
So-
you know if you have it or not?
No,
Yes or
I really
You
don't.
don't know? Okay, he doesn't know. Next question.
In your opinion, when a legal services request is made, I've seen some examples of yours to our legal department, should it be as clear as possible and direct to the point?
I missed the first part of that question.
When you make a legal services request to the city attorney's department,
Relevance. You didn't even have to finish. Relevant. What does that got to do with this?
Mr. Lopez, in your professional opinion, would you agree that the misuse of a city asset due to negligence is an incorrect and inappropriate management practice?
That, again, you're going back to rehashing the previous case. That has nothing to do with this case.
Okay, Mr. Lopez, in your professional opinion, do you believe that directing me to do even less in the exact assignment previously undertaken by a clerical temp person is being negligent with a city asset?
I'm going to object. It calls for, I don't even, it's calls for speculation. Yeah.
Next question.
No, that's all. No more questions. Thank you.
Okay, city.
Very, very quickly, very pointed. Good afternoon, Mr. Lopez. You know me, Kevin Jones, assistant to, okay. So Mr. Chavez is still in the finance department?
Yes, he is.
All right, and there was a reference to a Jonathan Major early on. Do you recall that question by Mr. Chavez?
Now?
Yes, he just asked you about Jonathan Major.
Yes.
There's been some reference that he's doing the same work as a temp person. Do you recall those questions or that reference from Mr. Chavez?
I remember those, yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Major was brought in, was Mr. Major brought in to assist Mr. Chavez in removing the BTRs on hold?
Correct.
All right, and a part of that, would it be fair to say that Mr. Chavez was primarily responsible for removing the BTRs on hold?
He was the one responsible for it.
Do you recall whose decision it was at him and the director to put BTRs on hold?
To my recollection, it was his recommendation that the BTRs were put on hold and the city to receive the payment for it.
Have you had a chance recently to figure out how many current BTRs are still on hold, even after you've tasked him with removing them?
As of, actually, I did a report sometime this week. It's roughly over 7,000.
That's 7,000 people who have come forward and paid to receive a BTR and have not received it.
That is correct.
All right. So when we talk about his title, is it fair that he title was a business tax receipt supervisor, right?
Yes.
And I'm moving through this quickly so we can get to the meat of this. So when we're talking about this issue involving BTRs, that would fall squarely in his lap, right?
Yes.
Is there any other BTR supervisor in the finance department?
No, there's not.
All right. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question.
Quickly, please.
Mr. Lopez, what is the reason that, the one reason that has the most BTRs on hold currently?
It's customers who has paid for the BTRs and have not submitted the required license.
That is the one with the largest amount of holds.
That's the one that actually brought up the number.
Right.
That's exactly the number that I brought up.
No, I'm asking you, that's the reason, the number one reason that there are the most BTRs on hold right now.
I don't know for how many other reasons there are plenty other reasons that could be a BTRs on hold. The ones that I'm specifically listing here is this plus 7.
The one with the largest amounts of hold is that one.
I can only answer the question to the number that I know, which is the one that I just
I'm not talking
mentioned.
about numbers. I'm
Mr.
talking-
Lopez, let me ask a question. Mr. Lopez, do you know the number total on BTR holds?
I do not.
Including, you don't know the total?
I do
Okay,
not.
so the 7,000 you talked about is strictly for the not having the business, the license?
For the ones that he's working on.
Okay,
That's what I put the emphasis on those.
okay. And are most of the 7,000 based on, because they didn't have the business?
It's close to 8,000, 7,000 plus. I can tell you the exact
Okay,
number, but
all right.
they're associated to a requirement from the Florida statutes that happened a few years ago that every business is required to provide an active license, either a
Right.
CPA, lawyer, attorney,
Okay.
whatever.
So then, I'm sorry.
So in this case, those customers who has paid
Right.
their BTRs, there are many other customers that might have paid their BTRs that their account might be on hold. I'm
Right.
only referring to the ones associated to the license.
Okay, finish.
Okay, so, because it's been said here that I put BTRs on hold and I want it and I take people's money and so forth. Those BTRs, those 7,000 that you are talking, are on hold because of a state law, correct?
It is correct.
So we put that hold in the system to follow state law, correct?
We do that every year. Every business, every year, we actually put them on hold
Right.
automatically on a request that is made to the Information
Techno-
Technology Department. And then those customers that there will be, even if they do pay or if they don't, that requirement still holds.
So it's not something invented by me or any of the sort, or anyone in the city, for that matter.
The requirements of the license is the city ordinance.
No, the requirement for the be on hold until they satisfy state law with the city.
It's a city ordinance. City ordinance.
Okay, moving on. Any questions of the board
Chair,
members?
I just have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we're going to hand something out. It's just one document. We'll call it City 1 or City A.
Mr. Chavez? Mr. Chavez, do you have any objection to the document?
I have none.
Okay, go ahead.
Chair, I've handed the board City A, Mr. Chavez. What I want to direct Mr. Lopez to is the center body of the email. Mr. Lopez, do you see that where it says from Jose Fernandez, Thursday, September 12th, 2013 to Noel Chavez? You see that?
I do.
Will you remind the board who Mr. Fernandez was?
The director of the finance department.
And obviously, Mr. Chavez is sitting next to you? Is that-
Correct, yes.
I'm not trying to trick you, Emil. Is that Mr. Chavez right next to you?
Yes. it is.
What year was this conversation, this email, what year did this email take place?
2013.
Okay, so now we're in 20, so we're talking 4 years ago, right?
Yes.
All right, I want to direct you to really the last paragraph, where it says, okay, that second paragraph where it says, as the in-house BTR expert, and this is Jose writing to Noel Chavez, I will go with your recommendation to accept the funds and place BTRs on hold. You see that?
I do.
Okay, I had asked you earlier, again, this was 4 years ago that they're apparently having this conversation about this issue, right?
Yes.
And so what Mr. Chavez was, and what you were explaining recently to the board is a change in state law, correct?
Correct.
When did that take place?
I believe it was in 2014.
Okay, so it's a year predating this change, there was an issue about these BTRs being put on hold where Mr. Fernandez is addressing Mr. Chavez about it, right?
Yes.
All right, that's it, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the board of this witness?
I do. Mr. Lopez, when I'm looking at the job description, he's got a big range of work. And right now, you guys have him just basically calling and asking the licensees to please send their license so that they can lift the freezes.
Yes.
Is that going to be, in your opinion, is that what you think he's going to be doing for the rest of his career? Or is this a temporary situation? Are you looking to bring some folks under him to help with the situation? Is it something he can ever catch up with? In other words, you took the department away, but the licenses still need to be issued. Is he going to get some help? He definitely, when you look at his job description, almost every other one starts with supervises, and he's supposed to sit in meetings, and he's supposed to teach classes, you name it, a lot of things that he has to do. How long do you think that he will be making calls and lifting freezes on licenses?
As good as your question is, that's an answer that I cannot provide you because it was not within my power or discretion to make the change or to put that assignment on him. Neither would it be my power to make the change.
So it was a previous director.
Correct. But just-
And so you both work under a new director.
that is correct.
Is he here today? And he's
Yeah,
going to be
he's-
one of the witnesses?
I think on
Okay,
the
so
city.
I'll save the question for him.
Yeah.
In your opinion, you think that we're maybe underutilizing our resources? In your opinion?
In my
Having
opinion,
this gentleman making phone calls from a, I don't know, call center or whatever you want to call it, and lifting freezes?
let me be clear on my answer to you. As much as I would want, this is a very important task, and I have related this to him, which in some cases he might have nodded down like, hey, no, I'm doing this, I should have. It is very, the risk is the exposure. I'm not talking on the director's behalf, on Noel's behalf, on anyone's behalf, but on the city's perspective. It's a high exposure on the city on this task. It might be seen tedious, or it might be not being acceptable, being working at a level at a given point. I have served as a customer service supervisor for 5 months, 6 months, being a finance manager. And I did that, and I did my time because the city needed my service in the absence of the supervisor. I did not expect of myself to do that job for eternity, which is why now we have a customer service supervisor dealing with that. That was my same as my personal opinion. I did not expect that Noel to do this for life, if that's what you asked.
So you in that department, you are the HR guy for that department?
I lead the Treasury Division,
Okay.
which is the 5 sections within
In
the,
your opinion, do you guys, your upper management up there, correct?
I consider myself manager.
Okay. Do you foresee, not in your decision-making, but in your, do you foresee maybe hiring some folks to help them out? Because I don't think it ends at 7,000. I just think it keeps reinventing the wheel every year. IT automatically throws out or puts a freeze automatically on any license that, or anybody that's lacking something. And again, the same, we have to find a remedy eventually. And I don't want that gentleman tying the city's hands to any kind of lawsuit, nor do I want you to lock him in a room and say, shame on you for what you did. I want you guys to get together and solve this and be productive together. So do the taxpayers of the city. So do you see in the end this all working out, or do you think that we're going to be facing this scenario 2 years from now? And
I
he's
do not-
still going to be making phone calls?
I do not.
Do not see this working out?
No, I do not see him like the latter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions of board members?
I agree with Member Sutton. How you doing?
Very good.
You say you've been the supervisor for 3 years over Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
What his ratings been?
Say that again?
What has his ratings been? His appraisal rating?
His
Evaluation, yeah.
His most
Evaluation.
recent evaluation was, correct me if I'm wrong, Noel, 3.25, 3.35?
Okay, so like you said in 2013, this came from Mr. Jose Fernandez. We still referencing this email. The goal should be to obtain 100% compliance with all on-hold BTRs. That was 2013, and we're in 2017, and we still haven't gotten 100% compliance
Never going to happen.
on the holes on BTRs, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so when you say it's important, Mr. Chavez, it is. Okay, because they've been asking for this 100%, the goal, almost 4 years ago, okay? And I got to look at it and say, well, whoever assigned Mr. Chavez to that, him being the BTR expert, I can't argue with that. He being the expert, he should be the one who, I agree, get these things off hold. Okay? So I understand that. His concern is, okay, now he doesn't have anybody to supervise, the BTR section is almost gone. He think he's becoming pushed out the door. I'm gonna talk to you.
I'm listening.
Okay, you as a media supervisor, you saw this happen, right? Some changes happen. Okay, have you been privy to any conversation by other folks that want to push him out the door?
The information that I have is actually that the co-compliance department will be actually taking over the initial BTR or the BTR.
So he's going to another department.
Again, you asking the wrong. That's as much information as I have, and I have this information. I believe Noel actually walked into my office 2 months. 3 weeks. I can't recall the exact date when he walked into the office and informed me that he was informed of that.
Okay, but you can understand him being 17 years employed by the city of Miami, and I'm looking right at it. His boss, who's no longer here, said he was the BTR expert. The city of Miami, right? You agree with that, right?
I do.
Okay. I mean, and it's an important job. It's revenue, okay? And now we still haven't reached this 100% compliance on these holes. But in the back of his mind, and that's the big elephant in the room, you're taking everybody away from him. When is he going to leave?
Well,
And my question was to you, and you were being honest. That's all I wanted to know. Have you heard any conversation or been privy to any information that they're going to push this man out?
I have not.
Okay.
And just to your point, when I joined the city, he used to have 4 or 5 revenue inspectors. At the time when I joined the finance department, he did not have those inspectors. And I asked the director, because I believe that's a great tool for the department, not just for himself to have people underneath.
Right.
To me, I could have 24 people reporting to me, and I could have 1. What matters is actually not the many that you used to or the ones that you do, is getting things done right and getting it the way the city is requiring it. In his case, I raised it. I even asked him the question, do you know why the inspectors were changed? I cannot talk on someone else's behalf or on past times. I've only been here for 3 years. I'm not even sure if he actually raised this concern back in 2008 when the 5 inspectors were taken or transferred or moved. I'm not sure the right terminology that was used back then, to the co-compliance department. He used to have those back then. So the mindset from where I'm seeing it, yes, I have not, answering your question, but going back to what I knew ever since I joined the city, there has been multiple changes that the city has taken upon based on the need of the department or the city. I'm not trying to put this into perspective together with what I'm just telling you, but I just want to give you the broader picture that many changes have happened prior to my time here, as I believe many more changes will come in the future.
Thank you.
Ms. Ramon?
Yeah. Currently, is the city still collecting money for the BTR? The ones that are on hold?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I've heard that the issue has been, and according to this email, that for the ones that are on hold, they didn't want to collect money. They just wanted to resolve it before money was collected, before fee was collected.
My understanding was that if someone applies for a BTR, until you meet the requirements, do not accept the payment.
Okay, but, and this was since 2013, this issue was, this conversation, well, this email trail happened, and we're in 2017, and it's still being done that way, even with him not performing in that section, because like he testified, he's just removing holes. So who is he accepting applications still?
No,
Is-
the applications are being taken by the customer service
Okay,
section.
so if they're still collecting money for application, for BTRs that are on hold, if they're still collecting money and placing a hold on it, I don't understand, basically, I don't understand why that keeps coming up, because it's, according to this email, they're stating one thing where they want the application process to be confirmed, they want all the documentation to be submitted before fee is taken. But currently, even though with the employee moved to customer service, they're still practicing the old way where they're taking the information, they're putting in the application, if there's information missing, they're still collecting fee. So I'm trying to understand, I'm basically trying to understand where Mr. Chavez is coming from. I'm trying to understand this whole case, because it's like, we keep revisiting the whole thing of him accepting money, or the director feels that money should not be collected without the BTRs being, I guess, with all the documentation and everything being confirmed, but, and he was moved from the section, the other employee was moved from the section because there was a difference in opinions versus the application and the money being collected. But currently, everyone's displaced somewhere else, and the practice is still going on.
Yes, but at first, I'm not trying to be tactful, but he
Well,
wasn't moved from the
He
section.
wasn't moved from BTR, but that's what I'm trying to get at. You're saying it's 7,000 in this particular case where the customer did not submit the documentation they need. But if the practice is still going on, and you're still accepting application, and you're still collecting fee, that number will never go down, because the practice has not changed. You're still doing the same thing, and it's like the members, mentioned, no, maybe giving him, like a member Sutton said, maybe giving him someone to help him with that would reduce the number of BTRs on hold. But if you're still doing the same practice where you're collecting the application, you're processing it, you're collecting a fee, and you're still waiting on customers to bring the documentation to you so you can remove that hold, that number of BTR holds will never go down, because you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah, but actually, there's a little change to that.
Okay.
The approach was actually not to wait for the customer to come in and provide the information, which is in this case the license. At one point in time, Noel was under the impression that they shouldn't be contacting the customer. They shouldn't be going to the agencies, to the websites to double check that they have an active license, that it is a burden on the customer. That was his approach then. So what we decided to do was, let's go ahead and send a legal opinion to the city attorney's office to determine if obtaining the information from the agency's website by city staff would actually be sufficient enough to meet the requirement. The legal opinion actually confirms that it does. So instead of when a customer would come in with an application and hand it into a BTR staff or now customer service, no one would actually going into the website and checking. The customers didn't have the license, and the customer was turned back. Say, you need to make a copy and bring a copy of the license. I mean, I don't need to wait for someone else to tell me that. To me, that's not good customer service.
Okay.
If I have access to a website, which is going to take me 2 seconds for me to verify, it's just a matter of opening, checking, and verifying it. But rather than be forceful as to his approach, we decided to go on a different route, which is getting a legal opinion. By doing that now, the numbers of BTRs at one point in time were over 10,000. I mean, we're talking about 13,000 BTRs on hold under this specific requirement.
And what are they now?
3,900.
Then why were we
and
talking about
no-
7,000?
He was talking about all of them, but
I will get to that. The question caught me off
You're
guard.
talking about a specific hold.
It's two different aspects, and then by going back into what I said, On the licensing,
That's what,
which is the 7,000, on the licensing, we had approximately 12, 13, I can look them up because I have them here, because we
we
actually
get
work
the
on the
general
report.
picture. Go ahead.
So when they started working, him and his staff, as you indicated, the numbers came drastically down. As is common practice on the city, every year, the numbers would automatically go up. So being that 100 compliance is the ultimate goal, would that be attainable at a given point in time? That's something that we're probably going to have to work on it. But
Okay, so these licenses, let's say in this case, whatever the license is, this is something the customer has to update yearly? Or how many times do they have to?
every year, if you're a CPA, an
Okay.
attorney, you need to provide the city. Before you get your act or business tax receipt license, you need to provide with a copy of your bar, if you are an
Okay.
attorney, or a CPA certificate, if you are a CPA. You need to provide with one that is active at the time of renewal. It could expire in December, but at the time of renewal, which is October 1st, we give you your license.
So currently, his duty right now, he deals with the holds. So like you said, one of the practice you implemented was to go in yourself and check the website to see if these people licenses or business licenses are updated.
There is a process to
So
that.
is that part of what he's doing now?
Correct.
Okay. Another thing, you mentioned, I guess code enforcement at one point in the future is gonna take this section under their department.
That's my understanding, but again,
Okay.
that's as much information as I have.
Okay, so you, just for the record, so since, it was stated, before that the other employee that they moved out of BTR is doing his same duties as he was in BTR, including a little more. Is he gonna be transferred to, or this is just specifically?
I
you
don't have that
any-
information.
okay.
But on your questions as to the specific functionality, the person that used to work, we talk about the people under him. There were actually two temps. There was only one official employee under him, which is Joel Ramirez, which was here. Joel, he was a customer service rep. And he was basically processing BTR applications. Now, by doing what he's doing, he's actually not only doing the BTR applications, but he's also servicing customers on
Okay.
the same issues as BTRs and CUs.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mr. Lopez. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
You're excused.
Thank you.
Your last witness?
Armando Blanco?
Chair, may I inquire if, is there going to be, thank you, is there going to be different testimony from Mr. Blanco regarding the claims he raised in his charge, or are we going to, same thing? That's the first thing. The second thing, as a matter of prop to the board, is that the director,
The director's here?
yes,
No,
ma'am,
Director,
and your concerns about the
Right.
moves and all that stuff, Mr. Chavez has that information. So I think if you were to ask him what the conversations were and whether or not this is beneficial to him, he'll probably explain that the move would probably be beneficial for him because he would have assistance in doing the things that he's required to do. If you were to ask him directly, I assume that's what would happen. So,
Mr. Chavez, so yes, is Mr. Blanco's testimony going to be the same that we've been hearing, or is it something that's going to add to proving the charges that you have levied against the city?
Well, I got one here, and I'll run it by you first.
I'm sorry?
I'll run it by you first.
Okay, go
Just
ahead.
one. I'll do away with all the others.
You have one what?
One question
Document?
and one exhibit, and then I'll ask him.
One question and one exhibit
Right.
of Mr. Blanco.
Right, but I'll run it for you, by you first. If you disagree, we don't ask him. We don't even call him in here.
Well, the city would need to see the exhibit anyway, so we can go ahead and pass that out now,
Okay.
and then see if they have any objections.
And that's the second page of and it has actually to do, he was a witness at the suspension meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask him because at the suspension meeting, I held it up for an hour because to secure union representation, I could not get union representation because there wasn't nobody available. And I came back to the meeting, but at the signature, the director instructed the then assistant director to right there refuse union representation. I did not do that. I mean, it might be a small thing, but I did not do that. I did not refuse union representation. And he was there, he was a witness to how we stopped it for an hour. But if it's not an issue,
I'm going to object to relevance. I mean, Chair, you've asked me to get away from that issue. I've talked to witnesses about that. We've moved beyond that, I think, to what we're here on, and that's his allegation, that removing PR holds isn't a part of his job. This goes back to the hearing at the Civil Service Board, which I have, based upon your recommendation, I've elected not to cross-examine witnesses on or even talk about anymore. I don't think it's relevant to why we're here today.
What is Mr. Blanco's position?
he's the city treasurer. He's Mr. Lopez's superior. He's, I think technically right, or legally, whatever, in the chart of organization, right under the assistant director. But the assistant director usually handles all the accounting side, and he's responsible for all the treasury management side.
So your one question to him
No,
is
I think-
related to you're not electing, you're saying that you didn't elect to proceed without a representative?
No. I have more questions, but according to what you stipulated in the attorney, that if there are any of the same stuff that we've been asking, that's the only one that's different.
Madam
Okay,
Chair,
and everything else is the same that we've heard, right? The
Well,
other
it's along
question?
those lines, yes.
Okay, go ahead, member.
Madam Chair. There's one thing that's bugging me. He came back, and I think his immediate boss right then, Mr. Chavez asked him about the reorganization of what's been going on. And he wasn't able
He
to answer
doesn't,
that.
I know.
He said, so I got in my mind, I want to know what brought this reorganization on, who, how this came about, who did it?
But that's, the city isn't saying that they reorganized
But
that. That's what he may be implying and what he's putting that charge forth.
Been no evidence of
But the
reorganization.
city isn't saying that they reorganized. And this, in fact, this charge speaks of whenever a department is being reorganized. I don't know if, and I haven't seen any evidence that the BTR area was an actual department. I think they were more of a section, yeah.
And Chair, there's been no evidence. If you want, we can, I'll show the org chart to Mr. Chuck. Has not changed. He is still listed in the org chart as the BTR supervisor. There's been absolutely no change in the department. We're trying to sort of move this along, but
Right.
the evidence is undisputable in that, he'll even tell you himself he's the BTR supervisor. So, I mean, there's just no evidence to support that claim.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. Jones. I noticed the director was here, and I just had one question for her, and I noticed Member Dames had a question for the director.
They're gonna call him. That's what we're trying to.
you already
Gonna be the
called
next
it.
one?
You invoked the rule, so that's why I
Yeah,
asked her to
we're
step
trying to
outside.
get
Oh, I
to
wanna
the,
talk to the
to
director.
the city side. And that's why I'm trying to wrap up Mr. Chavez's side with the last witness.
I can ask the same question to the director. She was, in fact,
Okay,
she's the one.
so that's where, and then if you find, I will give a little leeway, if, once the city rests, and you find that you might need this person, Mr. Blanco, which I don't see, but I'm gonna give you that opportunity at the end, if we can move on where the city can now present their case. Is that fair?
That's fine.
Okay, so since that was your last witness, does the employee rest at this point? Normally,
We've been told to sit down, man.
well, normally, when you don't have any, when you've done with your last witness,
I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna help you. I actually want to get to the
That's fine.
director.
Yeah, go ahead.
And not against you, I think
right,
you, I really, I
Oh,
think
no.
getting to the director might help you.
Yeah.
Okay, so does the employee rest at this point? And like I said, given, if if you need Mr. Blanco after we hear everything else, I will give you that opportunity.
No problem. I rest.
Okay, employee rest. Okay, city, you ready to proceed? And,
That's the director. So we come to the director now.
yeah. Is Attorney Diaz, is the director your first witness? Okay. Thank you. Either one, whichever one you're comfortable with. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you raise your right hand so I can swear you in, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and can you state your full name and position for the record?
Erica Pascal, Finance Director.
Okay, thank you. City, you can proceed. Okay, no problem.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pasquale.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on becoming the,
Thank you.
you're testifying as a director?
Yes. Period.
All right, we've handed out to the board what we call the org chart. Did you all receive it? Did you all receive the org chart, Mr. Dames?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And this claim that Mr. Chavez has been moved or somehow taken out of it. Is that the case?
No.
When we talk about BTR supervisor, do you find him on the org chart somewhere?
Yes.
All right. Has the department changed pursuant to, let me strike that, I'll start again. Have there been any department-wide changes that you know of?
No.
All right. All right. So there's an allegation in this case by Mr. Chavez that the department has made changes which required it to go to the Civil Service Board, direction, this mic keeps coming, seek direction from the manager and so forth and so on. Has any of that occurred to the finance department?
No.
Can you explain to the board what Mr. Chavez's current job are?
When I was appointed, Mr. Chavez was assigned the duties of removing those businesses that had BTR on hold status.
Is it, to your record, to your knowledge, is that what he's continuing to do?
Yes.
Okay. Take a step back. You didn't make the decision to assign that task to Mr. Chavez, right?
No, I didn't.
All right. As BTR supervisor, in your opinion, is this squarely within his job function?
Yes.
All right. There's been some, I get concerned by the board that Chavez believes he's going to be squeezed out of the department or something like that. Is any of that occurring in relation to Mr. Chavez?
No.
With regard to any, is there currently on the table an offer or to help him or assist him in dealing with the BTRs on hold?
Yes.
All right. Can you explain to the board what that is?
Yes. Shortly after I was appointed, the treasurer, Mr. Armando Blanco, came to me with his concerns regarding Noel's job duties, and we wanted to address them in a means that was more effective to the city. So I had a conversation with the city manager's office, and which led to a conversation with Code Compliance Department, and the treasurer and I agreed that without the arm of compliance, that his job duties would not be as effective to the city or the constituents. So in discussions with Code Compliance, they determined, or we decided that maybe it would be a function better suited under Code Compliance because he would have access to business tax, our Code Compliance inspectors, to assist in his job function.
Job function is, again, helping the people who have these licenses on hold actually get the holds removed, correct?
Correct.
So it'll be like the physical arm in accompanying his expertise in the area.
Yes.
All right. I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chavez, you can cross.
Madam Director,
Sir?
we got this, says 817.
Correct.
Correct.
The initial table of organization is completed in Microsoft Visio, which everybody does not have access to. So when I downloaded it to a PDF file, it automatically came down with the date of August 17th.
Oh, August 17th. Correct. Now, on one side, it has me with 3 staff members. And on the other side, it has the true picture of me with no one.
Yes.
Is there a reason behind that?
Those decisions were made by Mr. Fernandez. My understanding, the decisions that were made were, I was not intimately involved in those decisions. I was aware, but not intimately involved.
That's what what I argued originally in the hearing request. Madam Director, do you recollect the meeting, my suspension meeting?
Yes, I was there as a witness.
Do you recollect that I held it up for an hour looking for union representation?
Yes.
And I did not get it. I was not successful, correct?
Union did not show up, no.
So after an hour, I had to come back and sign off.
My recollection of it was that you refused to sign.
Right, that I refused to sign. And did Director Fernandez advise you to write refuse union representation on the memo?
No, I recall writing refused to sign.
No, it says, if we can take a look at it. I lost mine. Oh, yeah, I introduced it. Here. It says elected to proceed without representation.
Okay.
It's somewhere on there.
Did I elect to proceed without representation?
We did move forward without,
You bring that,
Oh,
bring that back, Tish, bring that back, please.
oh, she doesn't.
I'm sorry, does it, okay, does the city have objection to that?
Yes, Chair. None of this is relevant to the issues that you have framed a couple hours ago. None of this has anything to do with whether or not the department was changed improperly, whether or not he's not doing his job duties. But he wants to ask that question. I think you've received the response that, yes, he did elect to proceed without. So, I mean, at this point, if he wants to continue asking the question, I'll give him a little bit of leeway.
Okay, and the document, do you have objection to the document?
I do. It's not relevant
Okay.
to any issue.
I'm gonna overrule, although noting your objections.
Well, Madam Director, the thing is,
You can proceed with your question, Mr.
well,
Chavez.
the question,
But we need to see the document.
did I elect not to get representation, or did I just didn't get it?
the union did not show up for the discipline.
But do you remember Director Fernandez directing you to write on there, elect to proceed without representation?
That's my handwriting, so I...
No, I know you wrote it, but
Right.
that was all your decision.
Wasn't my decision.
It was his.
It was just a notation that we
Okay.
proceeded without representation.
Okay. No, that's all I have on that. Let's see if I have something. Madam Director, in the Finance Department, there are 2 main divisions: Treasury Management, which oversees the city treasurer, and the accounting side, which is mostly headed by the Assistant Finance Director, correct?
I was filling in at the time because the controller, we didn't have a controller at the moment.
No. What I'm referring to is that is the way it's set up.
Usually the controller directly supervises the general accounting division, and the treasurer directly supervises the treasury side. However, we didn't have a controller at the time, so I was filling in as assistant director
Okay.
and controller at the time.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Okay, city?
We have no reader yet.
Okay, members of the board, any questions of,
I have a question. At the hearing, when Mr. Chavez came before us to request this hearing, I can't remember which member it was, but we brought up we asked the question, did he have any conversation with you about this incident? I mean, what was, if anything took place? And now today we're hearing that Jose Fernandez was the director who made all these changes since his suspension. Did Mr. Chavez at any point, since you've been the director, at any point approach you to discuss the changes, to discuss, to come up with any did any discussion occur between you and him in regards to this? Him not having any employees and he's the only one in the division?
The first discussion I recall having with him was when he came to me to say that he was going to request a hearing before Civil Service Board.
And that was it?
Yes, and then he came back.
All right, thank you.
I have an observation. How you doing? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm doing well.
Act like you don't know me. Point of contention, our father was a drum major at Jackson, and I wore his uniform after he went on to college. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But he's deceased, but
okay,
he was a
disclosure?
great man.
Is
Great
that
man.
a disclosure? Anyway, go ahead.
I just got one thing, though. I looked at this chart, right? I even heard Mr. Jones call Mr. Chavez an expert. I read in a 2013 memo from that guy, Jose. He was saying that he was an expert, a BTR expert. And like he said, I look on this whole chart and I'm seeing all these people, but then when you get down to this business tax receipt, right? And he's right. It's just him, but you got these names under him, but they're all gone. I know you really didn't have,
I mean, from what I understand, the two staff services assistants were not removed from him. They were advanced into city permanent positions. One became our cashier too, and then one was promoted to a position in human resources.
Okay, but this Joel,
Yes,
he went to where?
customer service.
Customer service. Has nothing to do with this, the tax thing or anything like that, right?
They do work hand in hand.
They work hand in hand.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, by the way, that guy who went to HR, y'all need to get him back.
Mr. Major?
Yeah, y'all need to get him back.
Okay.
Okay? He's sharp. Okay, y'all need to get him back. Please.
Noted.
Just a tidbit, okay?
Noted.
All right. Okay, so he went to customer service, which you say is sort of work hand in hand, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's sharp too, okay? Good people. Now we look at Mr. Noel. I know you're sharp, and he's sharp too, right? And now we're saying that he's going to, what's this thing is, code enforcement?
Code compliance?
Code compliance.
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna look at you, all right? We're gonna have this conversation. He's been here a while, right? He's made some people mad. We just having this conversation. We know how it go. All right. He won his case, but he's seeing, everybody disappear. All, the people that used to be under him. Okay? He's getting afraid. He said, I'm one step from being out the door. Okay? And, we can slice this thing out a million times, but that's exactly what we're here for. Okay? His thinking, that's his thinking. Okay? Really in the back of his mind. Okay? And I've heard him being called an expert in everything. And he see these moves happening. And he's a little leery about that. Okay? And, you being a new director, You have nothing to do with that old stuff, whatever, okay? I'm saying that it's probably looking like, whatever happened then, that's bygones, let it be, okay? You signed off on this move for this thing about what's coming up with this code thing?
It's a discussion that we're having with code, and it's being presented in the budget hearings as part of the budget proposal.
Okay, so you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, you understand it, everything, right? Because I think this other guy, who you said, this treasury guy, his name is Armando Blanco?
Correct.
Okay, I think he has a little something with him too, okay? I think that name came up before. I'm just being honest, okay? So when his name was attached with maybe another move of him going somewhere, something like that, he said maybe there's some type of retaliation, okay? It could be, it's just a perception, and I understand that. You have nothing to do with that, but it's just that perception out there, okay? Okay. But you haven't heard, and you're the director, you have, and I'm going to be quite frank with you, as we speak now, you have no intentions of getting rid of this man.
As an employee of the city, no.
Very good. Okay? You heard that, Mr. Noel.
That's why I think she's great.
No, did you hear what I just asked her? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other
I
questions?
do, I have some questions. Congratulations. How long has it been?
Since April the 1st.
How long you been with the city?
Be 18 years in December.
Congratulations. He's been about 17. So we're all here for the same reason.
17 for you
Is
too?
it safe to assume that we collect maybe 10 to 15 million dollars in DBR fees a year? I'm guessing 25,000 licenses? Give or take, 25,000 licenses? Sir? Give or take?
41,000.
41,000. So we collect about 30 million a year in license fees, DBR fees.
I can't speak to that right
Okay,
now. I don't
let's
have
cut that in half, 15 million.
Okay.
Okay. We're paying this gentleman
$89,000.
$89,000 a year. We're paying a young gentleman that's brilliant. I want to hire him on the fire department out there. $16,000 to do what he's doing today. We need to find a remedy in the end.
Which gentleman are you speaking of?
The young man that he was a temp that he mentioned. I want to hire that kid on the fire department.
Okay.
I liked his style. I liked what he represented.
Okay.
We're paying him $16,000 to do what?
I know he was making $12.62 an hour, so
He
I
was
think
a
that
temp.
equates to more like 26,000.
Oh, he mentioned 16, right?
That was initially.
Okay,
That was his
initially, he was probably
Temp.
working part-time.
As a
That was
temp.
his
As
initial.
a temp,
salary.
yeah. We need to keep that kid around. But he was doing the same job for $16,000, collecting $15 million a year. When I look at the email from Mr. Fernandez, you're not Mr. Fernandez. Do you agree with his statements that the goal should be to increase compliance? You agree with that?
Yes.
I do too. What do you think about the goal should be to obtain 100% compliance with all on-hold BTRs? Do you think that's a reasonable request on an employee? The goal, not our goal, because if I wrote it, it would be our goal, 'cause it's my department. He wrote the goal for him. And then I'm gonna take his employees away, but I'm gonna give him the goal of 100% compliance. When IT, at the end of every year, puts a hold on just what we mentioned on one particular scenario, 7,000 licenses, or maybe I'm saying it wrong. And it's not our goal, it's the goal of him, and I'm gonna take his employees away from him. I'm gonna think that is, you're a smart lady, or you wouldn't have got where you were. That's an unreasonable request. Would you agree with that?
We will never get 100% compliance.
Exactly my point. We will never. So that's almost saying, I'm gonna lock you in a room, I'm gonna give you a phone, and I'm gonna tell you that your goal, the goal for you, is 100% compliance. Not our goal, because our goal if it was our goal, it would be to better where we are today and work toward 100%, but it would be our goal. And I'm going to give you all the help I can get you. And I'm paying you $89,000 to direct that help, to increase our collections and increase our licenses and get rid of the holds. But he wrote the goal. So do you agree with the goal should be to obtain 100% compliance with on-hold BTRs?
We will never get to 100% compliance.
Exactly, me too, that's what I think. My question to you is, do you plan on getting this gentleman some help? You're moving him to a different division. He will have better resources, in your opinion? Do you plan on getting him some help, employees? Feet, boots on the ground, calling the folks that young man that came in here were calling?
Yes, that is our conversation with code compliance, because code compliance has their own issues, our concerns regarding BTRs from what they see on the outside from going out and doing inspections on these businesses.
I hope that in some capacity, I have no idea how, that you look out for the taxpayers and the licensees in the city, and you get that gentleman over there some help. I have a feeling that you're going to do a great job, and that it's going to become our goal and not the goal. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know how this is going to end up, but I want you to make a promise to me that you guys are going to work this out. Being a new director, one of your biggest goals should be to resolve issues and not make them worse in the future. I know that you're going to do that. I have faith in you.
That is my intention.
So you're going to make a promise to me that you're going to resolve the issue with that hard man over there. That guy is smart, but he's hard. He's a tough guy. I see him in the elevator, and I don't know how to read him. So I'm certain that he's not a real easy guy to get along with. But I haven't heard anybody call him lazy, and I haven't heard anybody tell him that he doesn't know what he's doing. So it's your job to make him productive and get him the help that he deserves. He's a 17, 18-year veteran, and he's not 21 years old. He shouldn't be locked in a room alone making phone calls, and he should get some help. And his job description states that he visits meetings here. He does on-site inspections. He gets out of his office a little bit. He supervises. It mentions some 10 or 12 different scenarios where he would be in a supervisory role, and an education role, and a mentoring role, and all these kind of things. And that's part of not only your pay, and I realize that we're not going to find you guys guilty of violating all kinds of rules here, because you're going to do it within the guidelines. The fact of the matter is, he's an employee here because he likes it. It's a nice, sturdy foundation. He wants to know his future, and that's why we're all here. I've been here 28 years for that reason. I don't want to jump around job to job. So I want you to make a promise to me that you're going to resolve this problem.
I will work diligently to resolve the issue with Mr. Chavez.
With Mr. Chavez.
Okay.
And that's all I got to say. I thank you and congratulate you on your promotion.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a question, and I have a message to Mr. Chavez, since you gave a message to the director. And what I have, because I think just from what I've seen, I don't know her, but just from her presentation, she's a fine
Absolutely.
director. So I got a message to Mr. Chavez. Before your first meeting with your boss and your boss's boss shouldn't be to say to them, I'm filing a civil service
It wasn't quite that way.
plan. Well, I'm
No.
speaking right now, Mr. Chavez. And so your first meeting shouldn't be that. And yes, as a director, manager, it's important that we lead by example. I myself, as you know, I'm a retired police captain, so I was a police manager. It's not just the responsibility of the manager, it's the responsibility of the people we're managing to work things out. And so the first meeting shouldn't be, when we ask the question up here as a board to Mr. Chavez, did you speak with the director? We asked that when he was bringing this request for hearing. Work it out. And so I'm just going to be frank. towards Mr. Chavez that your first meeting, you should make a good faith effort too. It's not just on her. And honestly, from what I've seen thus far, the whole organizational chart and then just meeting the people face to face, the manager, the previous guy, Mr. Lopez, who was up here, to me is another fine supervisor, manager. Didn't meet Mr. Blanco, but I could just imagine, because that seems to be the consistency here. And in my opinion, Mr. Lopez is also a very patient, good manager, in my opinion, because if I have someone that I'm managing, not that I have a problem with giving them information, but what you're saying to me, didn't I ask you to give me in writing what you're telling me verbally to do? I'm sitting here listening to that like, wow, we don't operate like that in the police department. We operate on orders. And for me to then turn to my boss and say, well, the order you're giving me, put it in writing, I don't then turn around and give him an order. I was like, wow, I can't even relate to that. But for Mr. Lopez to be humble enough to say, well, I was working on giving you that, to me shows, again, good faith on the management part to try to work this out. So all I'm saying is I agree with, yes, we should make sure, and that's the first thing the director said when she came up here. She already said that. We're looking to utilize Mr. Chavez and create this position here to where it's effective and efficient for the city. She was already there before the question was even asked. So I'm surprised, like I said, then to hear from her that we as a board requested Mr. Chavez to speak to her, to hopefully that could have worked out before we even got here. We really shouldn't even be here. So I just want to say that and give proper accolades too where it's due. Because a lot of times when we're up here, we're getting on management and we're looking for management to commit to certain things. And so when we're seeing that, we should also give accolades to that. And we should also make sure the employees remember that there's a chain of command and everybody has a boss. And we're supposed to listen to our boss, as long as they're telling us legal and lawful things to do. So on that note, my question is, I did my little venting, but the question is that, was that the first time, I'm just making sure I hear correctly, that you heard from Mr. Chavez about this issue?
That's the first time I recall him calling me and say, can I come speak to you?
And the speaking, what did the conversation consist of?
That he was going to move forward with his civil service board. He wanted to put in his request to do a civil service board hearing, and that it wasn't personal. And I said, well, that's well within your right. And
Yeah.
it was a very short, brief conversation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
For the record, I wasn't being, if you took me as being tough on you, I want you to know that I'm the only one that voted no against at the hearing. I think you remember. I took a hard stance. But in the end, I want this to be resolved internally, and so that it's advantageous for the taxpayers out there. And that's it. And I know you guys are going to do it. It wasn't me giving you direction. It was more giving you my faith that you are going to do that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I love you. What directed at you? I just wanted to get on.
He's a tough guy. That's a tough
get
guy
on
over
Mr.
there.
Chavez, because I'm sitting here listening to his different bosses. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
we
he's
can't get
tough.
away with that in the police department. And then to turn around and ask to say the order the chief or my major or something gave me. Okay, yeah, and put that in writing. We can't get away with that. Anyway, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, and then do you have any other witnesses? Or does the city rest? Thank you, ma'am.
We got 20 minutes left. So you don't have
Yes.
a lot of time.
I'm aware.
Now you tell
This
us.
is your last one.
Suka?
If I could just ask if I could make a stipulation so that way I don't need to call Mr. Chavez directly. And if he could just stipulate that his title hasn't changed and his salary hasn't changed and all of that has been remained the same, that certain tasks that he used to do, he may not do now, but that still doesn't change the fact that he still maintains the same salary, he's maintained the same benefits, he hasn't been docked any vacation or leave time, and that it's all been status quo even after his hearing where he got hours.
Okay. Do you, will you stipulate that with the city, or do you have any difference in what they're citing? That your position didn't change, meaning your title, your
Yes.
salary? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so he's okay with that.
And that's the
So the city rests?
best, yes.
Okay, now, Mr. Chavez, you can give your closing
Okay.
item.
I'm going to start from last to first. First answering you, Madam Chairperson. As you remember, I stood up and I wanted to do it on a timely basis because I did not want this new director, who I have long known and has come up, and I went in there to inform her and just to advise her and to let her know, and there's nothing, and we've been talking, and I went a second time, I did it, and I defended her against Member Sutton, what he implied here, this, if I liked her or not, or whatever, to get that first. There is, and that's why I did it. I didn't, at this time, somebody ran an interference for me, I should say, in an organization, and that's why I took so long. Okay, that's the thing. Second, if I ask for it in writing, this is not the police universe. First, I can understand and appreciate you can't, because you got to move fast on police orders. Here, and given what I had just been through, I needed it in writing. I wanted it in writing, and especially and that's something that's every day it's done. Because when I put it back, and you can ask anyone around, it's always done. Okay, and why I wanted to bring, and Mr. Lopez is a very nice guy. I told him when he started, pass your probation, this, that, or the other. If you read some samples of Mr. Lopez in his emails, not here today, we have a different person. Okay, as far as tone and whatever, I wasn't allowed to bring it all in. And my original case was all about, started with abuse of power, things that were said incorrectly at the hearing, that had nothing to do with the hearing itself, trying it again. At best, out of left field somewhere. The director said he was waiting for a law that said the fictitious names has to match. Well, he got an email from Mr. Lopez 2 days before that per state law. So he knew they had to match. The fact is there was a cost due for making that change. If I would have, or any other staff member, given an interim BTR without making sure that that person, that cost was acquired by the city, I would have been here before you for another reason. They simply, and they neglected that. And then as far as, and when you don't take care of city funds, and it was all based an abuse of power on a motive to satisfy one particular business entity who was referred by the mayor's office. And that's what it was in the hearing. And they wanted in no way to say no. And they used their power to get that done. That's the abuse of power. Now, by not getting city funds, that's also a neglection of city funds, bad management. Now, when you come, I had emails.
Remember you won that case. You won it based on everything you're saying.
But I'm talking about the abuse of power that was used. Then it morphed into my abuse of power. They made all the decisions that as a retaliation to get me to quit or whatever. I mean, in what mind Does it make sense to put somebody who's been doing that for the longest? They had new folks come in. I could have participated in their training. I could have trained them. I trained net and code enforcement personnel on my staff throughout the years here. They just did not want to. And if the emails would have shown, they would have said, just do this, just do this. And fine, I'm humble, but it was purposely done. The use of that power to first satisfy one business's request to score brownie points, and the other one to retaliate and get mad because I shined the light on it. And that's why I brought up abuse of power.
And you're shining it again.
Yeah, let him-
And again and again. On that one, though, I want to move forward. You have a new management.
It's forward. After that time, for a year and a half, how do you assign somebody who's making 89 grand to somebody who's making 16 for a year and a half? Now it has come up because they've changed, and there's coming from the outside, and they're talking about moving the whole session, and that's what I even discussed with her. You gotta move the whole session, not leave it here halfway as the original plan, and then halfway. We're gonna have this argument back and forth. As far as the holds that they talked about, that was state law. That wasn't us. Then the code enforcement department goes out there when they collect on the spot, or the net offices. What are they gonna say to folks, especially the code enforcement inspector? Gonna walk up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times no, they'll capture the information. And the funds do the city. The compliance is on the burden of the business owner. We get carried away with this. There's no way that they get teached on that if you don't do that. Mr. Lopez failed to mention, I did a mass emailing. We were supposed to do a mass emailing. That has never been done. A mass emailing, a mass mail out, and work with the code enforcement department. Since they're going door to door, they can ask the folks, hey, you're on hold for this, give me that. Just like they do every day. Never did. They left it all centered right there, and it has grown. The largest item that causes holds on business tax receipts, and that's why I asked him over and over again, and he said, no, he only knows about the license. It has nothing to do with the requirement of professionals to the state. It has to do with a change he initiated with the IT department to require Social Security numbers and federal employer identification numbers, and it wiped out all the system. There's 18,000 of those. Now, if I would have said it, would have said no relevance. So and all this thing was introduced, and even my suspension, which was excessive for what? Comments? You should see some of the emails that he had me on the hour. Or do this by the hour, consider this progressive discipline. Do this, or for every hour? That's not even progressive discipline because it's unoffensive per the APM. And 120 hours. For that, and all that was created to make that bubble bigger than what actually occurred, which was the special treatment and the non-compliance. See if that business is not in compliance this year. Why? Why couldn't they have reached out to that business owner again? It's stay away time. But my thing was abuse of power and the neglect of this city asset. Don't even look at me as a person or whatever. If you have a city asset, you need to use it effectively. That is our responsibility. And it all had to be done because of that. And these 2 gentlemen, yes, they were beholden to a director. But sometimes people do their job too good. Too good. They should at least, and that's why this putting it writing. Where's it any time that they put it in writing? This could fit. We don't believe this is not a good use of a city asset. Let's move them here, or do this. Never. It was because of that they wanted to do it. They just went along with it. That's the easy way out. I could not stand by. I could have stand by like before. And it all would have fallen on this young man that was here. But I got to sleep with Noel 24/7, 365. But I thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd have nowhere to bring this forth. And I know you guys retired, you came back, you opened up businesses, for example, and what can I say? And they have to do their job, and they do it very well, and that's fine. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chavez. City?
You know, much like Madam Chair pointed out in this morning's hearing, that when somebody makes an allegation such as discrimination, the city takes those things very seriously. In this particular matter, Chavez filed a Rule 16, making some pretty strong allegations as well against the department. He made statements such as not adhering to state law, that there was favoritism, that there was unethical conduct, that the city's not securing its fees, and that it's wasting money. He said that there were threats and harassment. And the department took these allegations serious, so much so that my supervisor had to come and present this matter, because just like we're all professionals in this room, the two individuals who these allegations were made against are also professionals. They were worried about their professional license and their integrity within the city when statements like this are being made. However, as you've noted, today was a rehashing of the hearing that we had over a year ago. Why did Mr. Chavez wait over a year to bring this Rule 16 against a director who's no longer here? Clearly, a lot of these problems stemmed directly with decisions made by the former director of the department, who's no longer with the city. There was no evidence presented to show that the city's not adhering to state law. In fact, I have a report from the Miami-Dade Commission on Ethics from 2015 in which Mr. Chavez was a complainant. So he's familiar with the process in which to complain if he feels that something unethical is going on. And if that's the case, and in this prior incident, there was no findings by the Board of Ethics. Just much like there shouldn't be a finding of abuse of power in today's hearing. There's been no evidence presented at a specific law that's being violated as to any businesses whose monies the city has not collected. He continues to focus on one incident with the La Fama supermarket. What he fails to recognize is that the department follows the recommendation of the city attorney's office that created an opinion stating that the issuance of BTRs is a ministerial function, which means that you are not supposed to look at things subjectively. You are supposed to look at the application, see that it matches, issue the BTR. Doing anything beyond that is going above and beyond what your function requires and what the code requires. In this instance, it was Mr. Chavez's opinion that he shouldn't have to call customers to fix their lapse or whatever they were missing, where the director said, no, we should be providing a service. These are constituents, these are business owners. If they're missing a license or if they're missing a copy of a permit, we should call them and let them know. As a courtesy and as a service to our business owners, we should say, hey, by the way, your license that we have on file has expired. You might want to turn in a new one. The other thing that Mr. Chavez failed to mention is that there was another opinion from an assistant city attorney indicating that that the department, Mr. Chavez and whoever he used to previously supervise, can go on to any DBPR website, any website that contains accurate and up-to-date information on licenses, to check and verify if the person has the license. So rather than turning somebody away and putting their thing on hold, you could pull it up in a system, look to see that the license is still active, and just issue the BTR to avoid this putting on hold for something that somebody paid for. Accepting money from people and having them walk away from the customer service desk, believing in their mind that because they paid something, they got something in return, when that in fact wasn't true, was problematic. Problematic where we're hearing numbers of 7,000, 10,000, 13,000. I mean, that's a lot of business owners who can easily become non-compliant with other things. Their businesses can be shut down, they could lose money. And so at the end of the day, as the city, we serve the constituents and the business owners and citizens of this city. And I think that we would be doing them a disservice by not going a step above and beyond of helping them clear whatever was creating the hold and having them correct it. You heard lastly from the current director. And, you know, when Mr. Chavez initially requested this hearing, and made the misrepresentation that he had to the new director about this matter, I was actually taken aback because I, for a fact, knew that she had spoken to him. And I knew that there was an intention of trying to figure out a way how to give him back some responsibilities. And that misrepresentation, to me, is very misleading to the board because you granted a hearing under the belief that he hadn't spoken to the new director about this, or that she wasn't aware that this was a problem and that she was trying to work with him to help him. It's my understanding that, the idea of switching these functions or what Mr. Chavez was familiar with doing to a different department is in an effort to make him have that full responsibility over the BTRs and give him the assistance that he needs with code inspectors that are on the street to help him. It's my understanding that there are certain functions that Mr. Chavez used to supervise, such as revenue inspectors, and there's been no mention of those, but those are people that Mr. Chavez supervised many years ago who got moved to the code section and he hasn't supervised for years. And he hasn't complained that he's not supervising them. So there's a lot of things in this case that, have not been presented to the board, but there's one thing that for sure has not been presented, is that there isn't any evidence that there's an abuse of power by either Mr. Lopez or Mr. Blanco. Now, whether or not there was abuse of power by a former director, that's something that, could possibly have been found, but I think that because this is being filed specifically only for the current supervisors, Mr. Lopez and Mr. Blanco, I would ask the board to find that there's been no abuse of power. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, board, now we've come to a point where we need to make a decision, and we need to do so in 5 minutes. And Mr. Chavez, I will, just to note on record that normally you do get to rebut, but since you closed and said that's all you have, I'm going to take it at that, and I'm sure you want your decision before we leave here. Would I be correct in saying that? Okay. Okay, so, board, we're going to go down each charge and then make a motion and then vote from there. I'm going to follow the one in our agenda under today's hearings. Is there, Tish, do you have another sheet, or am I good with following the agenda? Okay. Okay, so under the agenda, so we have the first rule that Mr. Chavez is alleging the city violated.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't know. I've never, in previous, if there, say you have all these listings, right? And to bundle it or whatever, say if you felt like guilty on all the charges, we could blanket or lump them all together and just say guilty on all. Or if we felt like not guilty on all the charges, okay, then we could do it that way.
Okay. So basically, that would just be under a motion. So if somebody made a motion to that effect, addressing it from what they think, then we'll see if we get a second, and then we'll do a vote. So did you want to make a motion?
Okay. And I understand. Mr. Chavez fears and hopes and everything. You do great work. You're an expert. I wish to God you heard that, okay? Everybody's called you an expert. They respect that, all right? And I understand that. I believe the city, and I'm like Member Troy, we want to give the new director a shot at it, okay? I agree. So, having said that, I'm going to say that all these rules, as far as the city go, not guilty.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and then I'm going to just, the slight discussion too. Mr. Chavez, I don't think you have anything to worry about. especially from the management team that I saw up here. Member Sutton went even further than that and got a commitment on record. And fortunately, this board here has been one of the best boards I've worked with. And for us to bring management to a commitment level, the only thing we've seen from their commitment level is that they have fulfilled that. We haven't seen management go back on anything that they've said up here to the board, and we're going to continue to trust and believe that. So under that, I feel comfortable in saying to you, I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think the director's going to act in good faith in the commitment that she made up here. So on that note, we have a motion and a second that the city is not guilty of any of these violations. Tish, can you call the roll?
Member Rumlau?
Yes.
Member Sutton?
Yes.
Member Lindsay?
Yes.
Member Daines? Chair,
Yes.
Member Lindsay?
Yes.
Everybody said yes. So.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, and the best of luck to you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chavez. Huh?
You pulled that off.
Oh, yes, and remember, the next meeting is the 19th.
We didn't adjourn.
Motion to
Oh, I'm sorry,
adjourn.
we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. And the next meeting is September 9th.
And that's it.
He said,
Time you ever done
finally
anything
said aye. For the first time.